You're probably familiar with the suffix punk. Cyberpunk, Steampunk, Solarpunk, NASA-punk, and most importantly for today, Dieselpunk. But what are these? Is this just the next lineup of nu metal now that 3 Days Grace and emo punk is out? Well, no. The term punk in this context is alluding to an idea often in science fiction or historical fiction, although it's not a prerequisite as steampunk often finds its way into D&D style fantasy stories as well. But for the most part, the punk in these titles refers to either an overarching theme or aesthetic to a story and world. Cyberpunk is aesthetically 80s glam rock and narratively anti-establishment. Steampunk is aesthetically Victorian age meshed with analog retro tech. Solarpunk is a super sci-fi future with very green and a coexistence message at the core, blending naturalism with incredibly advanced technology not unlike the self-sufficient machines of Horizon. Atompunk is essentially Fallout. Cassette futurism or NASA punk would be Starfield, taking these aesthetics and ideas about exploring space into the science fiction future. Or more generally, it details the specific type of technology primarily used in any story. Steam, cybernetics, atomic energy, solar energy, you get the point. So, Dieselpunk? Everything is powered by gas. Massive exhausts, heavy steel plates, running engines, and drip pans full of oil. Factories that stretch further than the eye can see. A system of rampant militarization and fascism to an extent that leans government control rather than the corpo control of cyberpunk. What are some of the best examples for the bulky gas-based tech in a lot of popular worlds? Gears of War. Massive steel armor blended with gas-powered guns. Massive vehicles that have the chunky and utilitarian feel to them. Wolfenstein, very efficient, and some glimpses into NASA punk or Atompunk, but for the most part the machines are analog and fuel-based. Large and lumbering, industry and factories dominate the world. And probably the most famous example of them all, Warhammer 40k. Yes, like Wolfenstein, it's not exclusively Dieselpunk with touches of other things, but for their protagonists, the Imperium of Man, and especially the Space Marines, this is most definitely the case. At the worst, Warhammer's Imperium is a grimdark Dieselpunk. The other factions probably falling into a different category. Like with Gears, you have these hyper-advanced super soldiers with super advanced guns, but unlike something akin to Halo, where the Master Chief is using advanced caseless ammo and hyper-energetic shields, the Space Marines just tank it, wield chainsaw swords, and lay down brass like they're building bridges. And when a Space Marine isn't enough, get a bigger Space Marine! Dieselpunk has the best ideas time after time. And I'm here to tell you exactly why that is, and what exactly makes Dieselpunk if we try to narrow it down. What does any man want more than a 17-foot-long, 19-wheel death machine? Exactly. Nothing. Pavement princesses already live in a Dieselpunk world, they just don't know it yet. The military-industrial complex funding new development off the back of a new war, because if there's always an enemy, there's always a chance for you to go and heroically die for your country? Fuck yeah! There's a lot of shared tones of Dieselpunk that lay out the flaws and issues of a fascist, hyper-militarized world. The cog, throwaway lives like Churchill and Gallipoli. Warhammer is, well, it just always sucks, and in Wolfenstein, the enemy is literally Nazis, but sci-fi. The origins of Dieselpunk splitting from steampunk as defined from the optimistic pre-World War I era, and Diesel becoming the pessimistic post-Franz Ferdinand world of the early 20th century. It's not hard to see why fascism is such a big deal when it comes to the genre. And yes, Helldivers technically gets to exist in the sweet spot if you twist the definitions enough. Time to spread some managed democracy. With some claiming for Dieselpunk to fall into two categories. Peercraft, the first as coined for Piecraft, sees a dystopian future where technology and culture becomes reliant on diesel-based technologies. Extrapolating to examples like Mad Max, a world where the entire human race is dependent on their cars and running engines to keep going for survival. Or a world where constant warfare slows the evolution of human society. Essentially, Warhammer would like a word.
Brother, why have our guns remained the same for 10,000 years?
You question the word of the Emperor? Die, heretic! The second main form of Dieselpunk is known as fuck me. What the fuck is this word? Autensian? Autotensian. Don't worry, we'll figure this out. The second main form of dieselpunk, known as Autensian, named after Nick Ottens, is a more optimistic view of the world. One where war is not a hindrance on the development of the world, and humanity can reach a stage of utopia through our technologies. This is where false utopias like Helldivers find their footing. Still advancing, just maybe for not the most noble reasons. Essentially, outside of the factory and fascist aesthetics, dieselpunk can be broadband enough to be applied to really anything that fits the aesthetic and ideals of the world between the two world wars. Stories like Indiana Jones can become dieselpunk if you're loose enough with it, even though you'd think it has nothing to do with the other titles, just because Nazis. And it just goes on from there. I bet you all of your favorite titles, dieselpunk. Nolan's Batman, I'm looking at some complex and chunky machines. BioShock, look at that 1920s Art Deco with anti-industrialist undertones. Eugenics and authoritarianism's all over the place. COD Zombies, the undead Nazis count too. Doom? Maybe, I mean it's got a gas-powered chainsaw, unless you want to call this demon punk. And if any of those never convinced you, Cars. Yes, I submit that Cars is dieselpunk. It's a society that entirely and literally runs off of gas. Essentially, dieselpunk is a genre that focuses on either worlds controlled by or heavily changed forevermore by the inventions of the industrial complex, gas, and oil machineries, and moreover, Nazis. A world that feels trapped in a never-ending world war where factories, heavy overcoats, and flames fuel the industries and fabric of societies. And as someone who takes great joy in making the Proud Boys angry, I enjoy it so much. The aesthetics alone. I mean, I grew up on Gears of War with the big heavy vehicles, chunky armor, chainsaw guns, and more. The weight and grit of everything. I remember playing Wolfenstein, and while it does play into some other genres like NASA-punk with the moon mission or Cyber with its robots, for the most part it sticks within a nice layer of diesel that I love. To summarize, dieselpunk is made of three main parts. The overarching theme of dystopian fascist societies driven by war or led to the apocalypse by the end of world-encompassing wars. The aesthetic, massive bulky machines, exhausts in the era of the two world wars in general. Or the technology of the day, mainly being a gas-powered society with chunky engineering that normally prefers utilitarianism to something more aerodynamic. Dieselpunk will forever be the best subgenre of punk, and you cannot change my mind. That's all it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to. Join the channel for even more. Leave a like, comment, tell me why you think dieselpunk is not the best genre of punk. You're wrong, by the way. And that's it. Have fun, stay cool, be awesome. And that's all from me. Buster out.